what you gonna do? Yeah. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you were 8 and you had bad traits, you go to school and learn.
If looks could kill, I think I'm about to go on a serial murdering rampage.
Oh boy.
Who are the 2 people you would least suspect that could bring my rampage to an end?
The butterfly.
No one suspects the butterfly. Well, no, the 2 people I was hoping you would name were Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Lopez.
Okay, that makes a little more sense.
Does it?
Yes, it does. Fix this.
So today we're going to be reviewing the 2000 horror film.
The classic snuff film, The Cell.
You're all about the snuff. It fits for this movie. We haven't really done a movie about serial killing. So this was a movie that I chose because I had very fond memories of it visually. Like there's some good images that kind of stick in your head. And I've always kind of been a fan of the serial killer genre. Not necessarily driven by true crime or anything like that. But I like the idea of it. So I figured this one would be a good one to spin around and see what it had. So I finally sat down and looked at it, and it didn't... It's not the movie I remember it to be.
Okay, you know, that's fair enough. I saw it, 15 years ago? And, yeah, I guess I was the same way, that I had some memories of this movie that, it was actually pretty good, but...
I remember not hating it.
Yeah, I remember it being kind of freaky.
Yeah, they had some really interesting things. I'm an art student, so for me, visuals really tend to be the first thing that stick in my mind. Like a lot of people remember music or dialogue or a certain scene. For me, it's just an overall general vibe, and this movie is just a very clean aesthetic. And it makes sense when you look at the director. Like, his name is Tarsem Singh. He calls himself just Tarsem, I guess. But he started off directing music videos and commercials and stuff like that. So he's kind of one of those guys that leans heavily on that aspect just to catch you.
Yeah, it is a very panoramically shot movie.
Oh yeah, some beautiful vistas.
It does kind of look like a music video, and that's not a bad thing. You know, there's some very interesting visuals in here, but I think we should probably talk about the basic plot of the movie.
Alright, so what happens in The Cell is there's this serial killer and he's on the loose. And when the police finally catch up to him, he enters this shock state where he goes into a coma that they're not sure he'll be able to wake up from. And the pressure from the movie comes the fact that there's a missing girl that's about to be killed by him in his mysterious drowning cell. And they don't know where it is.
Oh, is that why they call it The Cell?
Yeah, that's...
Oh.
Well, I guess you can have a double metaphor, like the brain is a cell for all your thoughts, your secrets.
Maybe. I didn't think... for some reason, it just went right over my head.
The simplest explanation goes over his head.
I didn't really consider it.
No, so before this girl dies in 40 hours... They enlist the help of this experimental foundation, which has the ability to jump into somebody's mind, like through some sort of technological Vulcan mind meld. And they choose Jennifer Lopez to help Vince Vaughn, the detective, figure out the whereabouts of this girl in the killer's brain. So immediately, it's just visuals from the moment go, and. I really liked how they portrayed it. Like the visual style, it's not exactly what you'd call a dreamscape, but
I have to say that's pretty darn close.
It's about as close as I could get. Like I think that's why I fell in love with the visual style so much, is because there's always something to look at. I like the cues that happen on it, and a lot of it are based off of famous works of art and stuff you could actually go to a museum and see. But there's just this this incompleteness about the idea, and the way that it goes about the detective work seems a little shoddy at best. If you had such a limited amount of time to find this girl, you think they wouldn't send Jennifer Lopez in? You'd send Vince Vaughn in.
Well,
because he's a cop.
She knows what she's doing, though.
Well, even then, she wasn't that good at doing anything before that.
Her training was all about gaining trust with the people that she's getting inside their head, because they're not normal people. They're usually in comas, or they're not responding to external stimuli.
Yeah.
So she knows how to do it. She knows how to control the mind as well as anyone else in there.
Yeah, and it's kind of Matrixy. It's kind of
Inception-y.
Yeah, it's a lot of ideas that were kind of big around the time. Being able to plug your mind into things like Johnny Mnemonic.
It's amniotic.
Amniotic. No, that's not even how you would mispronounce it phonetically. But as far as the ideas in this movie go, I like them a lot. But I think it's a very bland case to go on.
Well, basically, this guy has a real elaborate masturbation technique.
Yeah.
Where, you find a girl, kidnap her, drown her, bleach her, hang yourself by hooks in your flesh above her. And
like suspension wires. And then you just go to town. Pafoo.
I really don't like serial killer movies that much, because I don't find it that fascinating. Over the years, people have said, you should really watch films like Gacy or The Rise of Leslie Vernon. I just don't find it that interesting, I don't need to get down with their methodology and stuff like that. It's just not my cup of tea.
Well, I know what you're saying. I always kind of thought myself as one that I loved serial killer movies. Mm-hmm. And the more I thought about it and broke it down, it's more I like the idea of detectives being able to find people like this. Mm-hmm. So I'm not enamored with the killer. I like detective work. I like good detective work. Mm-hmm. And there really wasn't any in this movie, so it was kind of a letdown for that.
Well,
It was just Vince Vaughn saw... he didn't even have to go into the dream.
He did.
No, because they had that logo of the Carver, right?
Yeah, but that's like...
But he saw that logo outside, too.
That's true. That doesn't necessarily... You see, when you go into someone's mind, and the portrayal of the mind in this movie is everything has some kind of meaning if it's important to you. Mm-hmm. It's like coming around here and saying, oh, look, they have Quaker Oats grits. That obviously means something,
Yeah. And this movie tries to do a lot of that constantly. Is of course with them leaning heavily on art and visual references and metaphors. Yeah, it's easy to get lost in that, and I can see where if this was the way you were actually going to find a guy, you try to find meaning in everything, every corner of that, of whatever world or landscape you're in. But I can't fault that side of it. Because it's all fun looking at that stuff. For sure, it looks like 9 Inch Nails music videos and stuff all over the place.
The killer in his own mind, he looks awesome.
Yeah, he does.
He looks like if Kane and Goldust had a child. That's the guy right there.
And he never saw the sun. Mm-hmm. I had absolutely no problem with the costumes were phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I think the set design was immaculate. The story had a lot of promise. A lot of the themes I like in it too. I mean, it's hard for me to like Vince Vaughn, but I actually liked him in this movie.
I like Vince Vaughn. I think he's a good fella.
He's a nice guy. He's not an actor though. Mm-hmm. It's very obvious in this, but he's such a nice, honest. He's just a guy. Mm-hmm. And he's not trying to put on pretenses in this.
And to be honest, Jennifer Lopez did a pretty good job too.
Yeah, that impressed me because I hadn't seen anything she was in until this movie, and I really haven't seen anything after it either. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure she can pull off the whole psychologist thing, but that's why they made her a social worker. Like she's not even really a psychologist. She has counseling techniques. That's about it.
But what I like most about this movie is it kind of makes you wonder, what would the inside of your mind or my mind look? And for you, I think it would be a bunch of pro wrestlers
Really?
fighting. Yeah. I think that's a pretty big set of imagery right there.
I wouldn't even want to think that my mind would be like that. It wants to spit. It just gives off the wrong ideas if you didn't know me. Like I like wrestling and video games, and I like watching movies. Mm-hmm. So of course there's going to be a lot of references to all of those, and it makes me look like a man-child or something. I couldn't even speak for what your landscape would be like. It would probably just be like a castle in my mind.
It would make sense.
It would make sense, but that's what a castle would be. It's kind of orderly and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thought. Like that's the side of it. Is you wish they would have went to a sequel that actually connected to it.
Probably.
I mean,
I wouldn't be adverse to seeing a sequel.
It's a good device to use. I think it's a wonderful tool to tell stories like this. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't even have to be horror. You could use something like this to almost tell a touching story in some ways. Mm-hmm. It's got options, and sadly, I don't think we're ever going to see that come to fruition. We're left with this movie that is distinctly around 2000, and it's unapologetically a product of the time in the sci-fi climate that it was born in. It doesn't reinvent anything, but it's a pretty good movie. That being said, you'll see it once and that'll be enough for you. The visuals are strong enough that unless you really are in love with Jennifer Lopez, you're really not going to look at it a second time.
I'd say that's pretty fair. It is a one and done movie.
It's a good one and done.
It's a good one and done, but this is the second time I've seen it. I've seen it once in the year 2000. 15 years later, I watched it again. That's fine. If you're into killers and if you like those kind of movies, you'll probably appreciate this. You'll probably like it. It's not for me because it's just not my subject matter, really.
Well, it's kind of one of those things. It's not something I worry about, but it's something that's always kind of on my mind. Is if all you do is you deal with watching movies like this and reading books about killers and stuff, it can kind of distort your mind, and it not necessarily infect, but man, I could see watching movies like this all the time making you a real gloomy guy, and that's something I really don't want to dwell in too much. That attitude.
All right.
So for me, give it a watch. If you like it, sure, pick up a copy, but I'm not going to be the one that's going to put it in your hands for you.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to them.
Right.
You already have your copy.
Uh-huh.
But you just recommend no?
If you're anything like me, no. If you're like everyone else, sure.
Nice. That's the perfect way to put it. Total anachronistic attitude. I love it.
Okay. Well, I guess that about wraps it up here.
Another job well done, so please come back and join us for another video review.
Yep. Live long and prosper.
I can't do that on the fly, so have a good night.
Bad boys, what you want?